Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Put.
Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Glad you could be here. Today is the 20th of the month, 20th of December 2016 on the Gregorian calendar. Our sun sign is in Sagittarius for one more day tomorrow, 4:44 a.m. It will make the transition into the next sign, Scorpio. So today is our last day in the conscious mind of Sagittarius, the conscious mind dealing with the ideas of the higher self before we move into Capricorn, the devil, the earth sign, the physical reality. And so this is our last moment before we jump into that next phase to really take a good look at who and what we are, what we're about. We need to connect with this. We need to connect with the higher self of who we are, because as we move into the next phase, the next sun sign, now we're getting into the sign that represents illusion. And it's an illusion because we're looking at the physical world. And so we've got situations taking place here on Earth right now, which obviously are very Earth-based, but there's a lot of necessity at this time to remember the connection we have to the spiritual. And that's the importance of all of this, to remind us that we are not out here on an island, away from everything, unattached to any energies. We're in the midst of it, being affected. So our sun sign today is in Sagittarius. Our moon sign is still in Virgo at the moment. However, we could see that it will be making a transition later this evening, starting at 7:56 p.m. when it goes void, of course, and then 8:39 p.m. when it goes into the next sign, which is Libra, an air sign. Okay, so the aspects we're looking at today, really the main one we have coming up yet, is going to be a lesson between our sun and our moon, between Sagittarius and between Virgo. Okay, Sagittarius and Virgo, the one who is teaching us patience and the one who is teaching us about the higher self. Now, some of the things we're looking at that have passed early this morning, Saturn wants us to look at some ideas of discipline, be a bit more focused, and the part of ourselves that needs to be healed is looking to find that healing place, to be patient with ourselves a little bit more so we can achieve that. Okay, so let's take a look. I like to look at the elements involved, okay, because we're living in a world of energy. All around us is energy. Every day we deal with it. So when we look at them, I see this as a fire sign. A fire sign are signs of ideas, a great amount of ideas that are burning forward, flickering. So fire moves. So we know a fire sign is going to bring with it movement because of the nature of the fire. It's going to be representative of ideas, and those ideas are going to stand on their own because it's a flame that is its source of its own energy. But there's also the effect around it. Imagine if you light a candle and then you'll see the flame flicker, because the flame is the idea, but you have all of the wind, which is blowing it around different ways. You have water, which could certainly affect it in one way if you completely snuff it out. So if we look at the way the energies move around us in very practical ways, we can understand. This is an earth sign. Okay? In earth, the hermit is telling us that we are in the physical world, and in the physical world, this is how we need to operate. We need to move slowly. We need to be patient in the physical world, and we need to understand there is a timing to everything. So we often want to move quicker or get out of sync with timing, and when we do that, then it's at our own detriment. So we need to be in time, like the hermit shows us. Now the sign that's coming up is this sign here, which is Libra, and this is an air sign. So we're going from Earth, and Earth, when we have an Earth sign, just think of the Earth. The Earth is generally stable. So an Earth sign is going to be stable. It's not going to move. But when the Earth does move, like an earthquake, it's a big shift. So when we have Earth move in our life, it's because something big has occurred to cause that Earth to move. Okay? Now we're moving into the air sign, and the air sign tells us we have to find a way to balance our expression, the way we express ourselves. Say the things that are going to help us, but also avoid saying the things that are going to hurt us. And being that we've entered a Mercury retrograde phase, it's even another good reminder that we really need to pay attention to the things we say, the things we do, the ideas that we're expressing, not necessarily for ourselves, but certainly for ourselves, but also for those around us, because we don't know how other people are being affected by the energies that are affecting you. So everybody has a different way that they're experiencing, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's what's going on today from the Gregorian calendar, the astrology. The moon phase, as we could see, it's past the supermoon on the 13th. Now we are at the third quarter moon today, 5:55 p.m. And then in the morning, 4:44 a.m., we're going to hit the winter solstice, that point between the shortest day of the year and the sun now starting to make its movement back up towards being around longer during the day. And then, of course, on the Jewish calendar year, 5777, I want you to remember 777 because it's going to be a theme for today. 777, significant number in the Bible. Today is the 20th, just like on the Gregorian calendar, also the 20th. Hanukkah coming up on this Sunday, just like Christmas Day is, so everything's in synchronicity. Okay, and finally, space weather. Our solar wind is currently at 344.9 kilometers per second. Our planetary K-index currently is quite at a 2. Here we have the large coronal holes in the sun opening up. Look at this disk over here, okay? Nice, good, flat disked surface underneath this object here. Just seems like every time they show these images, it becomes more and more evident once you start to see. Now, I could be completely wrong. The Earth could be a ball, but I'm going to think otherwise. M-class flare possibility is 1%. X-class at 1. Geomagnetic storm activity in mid-latitudes is increasing, going from 30 to 40%. High latitudes, it is going from 40 to 60%, so there's a lot of activity around us, probably coming from this corona hole, which shows here 20th, 21st. Okay, so these are the energies we're dealing with today. So we have the ideas, we have the higher self, our last moments of connecting with the higher self before we go into the next sign of Capricorn, which is an earth sign, where the higher self is not the thing that we focus on, because with Capricorn, people become focused on the earth, the physical world. And so the reminder at all times is that this is what we need to achieve, connection with that higher self. That way we can maintain the most balance. And of course, the reminder that in the physical world, this is how we have to move with patience and timing, because everything moves according to a certain speed, and that's related to the earth, the way the energies on the earth move. Because everything moves at a different speed, different pace, and those are all important things to know as we're making our journey through life. All right, there you go. That is our cosmic weather. UFO news is up next.
This is the UFO news with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. Today I have 4 stories. Story number 1 is a story that takes us back to August. It was just reported, however, and this is over Fairborn, Ohio. Here's our object in question. So first thing we want to ask ourselves, is this a flare of some sorts? So we look to see, do we see another light source there, the sun, that might be reflecting? We don't. It seems to be exactly what it is, some sort of blur object in the sky. It says, I was at Maplewood Park in Fairborn, Ohio with my girlfriend on the swings. I looked up and saw a shiny pill-shaped UFO fly overhead. It was completely silent and looked like it was really high in the air. Thought it was really odd to see an object flying so high in the air, not making any noise, and it was metallic. So I pulled up my cell phone, started recording right away. It went straight at a steady pace. Looked like it was floating across the sky. My girlfriend and I just watched it keep swinging. I'm not sure what I saw that day. Maybe it was a satellite or a blimp. Makes me wonder because I was only a couple miles from Wright Patterson Air Force Base. I lost sight of the object when it flew out of the distance and on the other side of the tree. Okay, so there you go. Let's move on to the next. TR3B, the story takes us back to September. So again, just recently reported. Says this triangle was seen over West Virginia back in September. The eyewitness says, thank you for reviewing my case. I am also a MUFON member. Please do not dismiss due to the sound of the video. I will explain this odd event. I do not want to modify the video in any way to make it not credible. In September, a week or two after coming back from Las Vegas, Nevada, my fiancé and I experienced a lot of bizarre events. During our trip to Las Vegas, being interested in the truth in EBEs, extraterrestrial biological entities, we drove out to Rachel, Nevada, visiting the black mailbox. I left behind an old student ID card, not valid, with an old address. After visiting the black mailbox, we continued on our way to the back entrance of Area 51 and got as close to the gate as lawfully possible. As we walked to the gate, jokingly, I said to my fiancé, little do they know that we know the truth. And when we came back to the VW and just to West Virginia, and just a week or two after our trip, my fiancée was on the back porch at night, and she saw these very low triangular orb set glide across the sky and then yelled to me to come out. I can describe the object or objects too low to be an airplane and absolutely silent to be a helicopter. Usually helicopters have red flashing or white flashing lights. These were just 3, 4, or 5 solid white lights in a complete silence. The orbs did not hang around too much, and the video was a last second record, so it's a bit shaky. Okay, so let's take a look at here. It's a 46-second video. This is the sighting over West Virginia back in September. Alright. There's our object in question in the sky. Slowly moving. Oh yeah, that's definitely not the normal looking plane. And certainly as he zooms in, you could definitely see the triangularness. Alright, very good. Good capture. So TR3B over West Virginia. Here's a story. It says UFO sightings. I'd pay you to abduct me, star Marnie Simpson tells ETs. The Gorgie Shore star Marnie Simpson posts in Instagram strange sightings of UFOs, spaceships, and aliens. Marnie Simpson, the TV celebrity, declares that she often sees UFOs and extraterrestrials. She has a strange feeling that they are watching her. The Gordy Shore star uploaded a number of posts on Instagram claiming that she recently had a series of supernatural encounters much before she caught a plane to Ireland. All her posts were uploaded when she seemed to be in her right senses. As the Sun put it, the party girl is known for getting mortal on the hit TV show, yet it seems her comments were uploaded when she was very much sober. The MTV show favorite, who is dating Louis Bloor, is worried that the ETs are clued to the fact that she has seen them. She tweeted, I have seen another UFO today on the way to the airport. Not even funny anymore, I swear. They know I can see them. But she is also fascinated by them, uploading one shot with 3 UFO spaceships, otherworldly modes of transportation against a purple hazy background. She wrote, I would pay you to abduct me. Her posts have thrown her followers into some confusion. According to Daily Star, Are you on drugs? Asked fellow followers. One skeptic asked her, could it have been a funny-shaped plane, seeing as you were on your way to an airport? One of the commenters was pretty skeptical. He speculated, must be them dodgy contact lenses you use. A hopeful joked, what's going great for the abduction? Meanwhile, Marnie is focused on another non-alien at present. All right, so there you go. So that is the UFO story. So maybe ET will give her a price and she can go, and that'll start a new trend in people paying ETs. And one last story here. This story is from Files, number 49, Communication, 2016 Communication with Extraterrestrials. All right, we're going to jump down here to Wilbert Smith, Special Projects. Wilbert Smith discusses communication with aliens. In a just recovered 1961 interview with television station CJOH, the former head of the official Canadian government UFO investigations, Wilbert Smith, was asked a number of questions about what he had learned during his days of investigating flying saucers for the Canadian government. Wilbur Smith stated in 1950, I was attending a rather slow-moving broadcasting conference in Washington, D.C., and I found that the U.S. government had a highly classified project set up to study flying saucers. So I reasoned that with so much smoke, maybe I should look for the fire. He was able to get permission to become the official director for the Canadian government's UFO investigation in 1995. He was one of the foremost communication experts of the day and worked the chief engineer for the Canadian government. In 1956, he headed the country's radio regulations department. Most importantly, he was in charge of monitoring 50,000 radio frequencies in Canada. I said 1995. That was wrong. It might be like, 1950 maybe? You can't see the last number here. Anyway, questions he was asked. Have you communicated with aliens? He answers, some of the communications have been face-to-face basis, but I've not been so honored myself. Some of the communications have been by ordinary radio, and I have received a few messages by this means, but by far the majority of the communications are by what I call tensor beam transmission, which uses a type of radio with which we are only vaguely familiar, and which I couldn't possibly attempt to describe now. However, the mental images of the person wishing to transmute are picked up electrically amplified and modulated into a tensor beam, which is directed to the person to whom the transmission is addressed, and within whose brain the mental images are recreated. The transmissions are therefore very precise and independent of language. I've had some experience with these transmissions myself, and I can say that they are like nothing within the conventional experiences of Earth people. Okay, here. Do you believe flying saucers are real? He says, yes, I am convinced that they are real, just as tangible as most things we deal with in our everyday lives. Why do you think they are real? He says, because thousands of people have seen them, many under circumstances which virtually preclude misinterpretation. Many of these sightings have been coordinated with the radar fixes. Photographs have been taken and physical evidence has been accumulated. Have you ever seen a flying saucer yourself? He says, yes, I have several times. Several objects which I concluded were flying saucers simply because they couldn't be anything else. Have you ever actually handled any material believed to be from a flying saucer? He said, if you meant material substance showing evidence of fabrication through intelligent effort and not originating on this planet, I have. But I cannot say from my own knowledge that I was ever part of a flying saucer. Unfortunately, most of my contacts in this direction were through classified channels, which for some particular reason I could never fathom, insisted on classifying these matters, and I am not at liberty to discuss them further. How long have you been studying flying saucers? I didn't get around to active participation until 1950, when I was attending a rather slow-moving broadcasting conference in Washington, D.C., and having some free time on my hands. I circulated around asking a few questions about flying saucers, which stirred up a hornet's nest. I found that the U.S. government had highly classified projects set up to study them, so I reasoned that with so much smoke, maybe I should look for the fire. So I set about gathering as much sighting data as I could get hold of and analyzing it, from which I concluded that there was a 91% probability that the saucers were real and a 60% probability that they were alien craft of some kind. All right, we can see there's a lot more to this story here. I'm going to leave that to you to read. So, again, more testimony about the truth of extraterrestrials. You know, there's so much information that's out there that we are not being informed about. It is pretty amazing, but times are moving on, and eventually we will be informed on a official channel what's going on, even though unofficially we know. All right, that's our UFO news. I will be back. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw a UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, but they're illusion from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What would our founding fathers say if they were alive today? Must be turning in their graves. Redcoats are coming, big brother's watching. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What if I land and two if I see? And I on the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm. When any form of government comes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. When along trade uses and usurpers, pursuing a objective line to reduce them to despotism, their rights, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
All right, let's continue on. Continuing on, shall we? Okay, so yesterday was the electoral process. Yesterday, the electors selected and Donald Trump, as was to be expected. We have protests going on. There were protests leading up to this. But the good news is we got to see Donald Trump win for the third time. He won the first vote in November. He then won the recount, and now the Electoral College. And you know what the icing on top of the cake is for yesterday? Yesterday, after the third and final time that Hillary was defeated, well, 18 years ago, Bill Clinton was impeached. So December 19th was a very important day for the Clintons because Bill was impeached and Hillary Clinton lost her final and third time to Donald Trump in 2016. So very important, okay? A lot of changes going on. Now, I think that this has been a really interesting race all year long. You've seen me wearing my hat. I'm going to keep wearing my hat. I like this hat. It was a good political statement, make America great again, but now that Donald Trump is in office, I no longer see this as a political statement. I see this as a mission statement. And I don't know about you, but the question I ask myself is, what can I do to help make America great again? People say, well, America's great already. Yeah, there are great things about America, but I remember a time when we used to be able to fly where we wouldn't get molested every time we go to the airport by TSA agents. I remember a time when you could go into, like, I had relatives and friends that lived in Detroit. We'd go to visit them. They didn't lock their door. There wasn't that kind of crime going on at that time. I remember neighborhoods that were safer. I remember kids could go out and they could play without having to worry about any sort of predators that were out there. I remember lots of things about America that are greater than right now. I remember the divisiveness that is taking place right now with all of the race stuff. It used to be better than this. It's gotten worse over the years. So there are many, many, many ways that I think America can be great again. America used to be at the top of the charts from educational standards around the world. We're now at the bottom of the charts, and that's not acceptable. We have plenty of room to grow. So when I think of Make America Great Again, to me it's a mission statement on what it is we need to do, because we can be so much better than we were. And if you're a young person, if you're 21 or younger, you haven't been around to experience the really goodness that our country is capable of. You've only experienced life in a certain way for the last so many years. Probably haven't been involved in the political process over the years. And so you're looking at things through a particular view, but there's plenty more out there, and there's a lot of greatness to be had. So I think that we all need to get on board with where we're going now, because there's some significant things happened. Now, over the course of this election process, I have given you my view on this from a spiritual perspective. I have, over this course of this election, chosen this particular candidate, Mr. Trump, but I haven't always been a Republican. Most of my life, I've been an independent. I became more involved with politics during the Ron Paul phase when he was running. But then this is the first time that, in order to be with Trump, to vote for Trump, I had to go and I had to register Republican. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be Republican forever. See, my objective in looking at things is to observe and see what is going on in order to be able to add my voice to the mix. And what I saw going on was that there was a lot of problems, a lot of directions that we were going that seemed to be really poor directions, poor choices, and we keep moving further and further away from the spiritual aspect of things. Well, when that happens, eventually things have to snap back. So from a spiritual perspective, there's a lot of significance going on here. We have Donald Trump, who has his running mate and now Vice President-elect Pence, Trump Pence. We have a word, trumpets. If we say it over and over, trumpets, 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 sounds like trumpets. Trumpets is mentioned in the book of Revelation a number of times. When a trumpet is blown, it is usually God that has an announcement to make. And so this trumpet precludes that announcement. I think that that's very significant for us to understand. If we look at another word, phrase that sounds the same, we live in America. It's a nation. The head of our nation at this present time is Obama. Therefore, this is an Obama nation. In the book of Revelation, the phrase abomination is there. It's not spelled the same way, but it sounds the same. So if I'm going to look and say trumpets, sounds like trumpets, and abomination sounds like abomination, I start to get ideas that maybe we are looking at a time frame that is unfolding that has spiritual significance. So what other clues are there to this? Well, throughout the Bible, there are a lot of different numerological clues that are given. One of the very important numbers in numerology is the number 777. 777 is a significant. 7 by itself is a number of victory. 7 days of a week. We have all kind of examples of 7 candlesticks and 7 angels and 7 this and 7 that. 7 is a very important number. 7 days of creation. So 7 is an important number by itself, but when you start having numbers stand next to a number like itself, so a 77, now you've got 7 times twice its power. And if you have 777, now you've got a power that's 3 times. Okay? And what you have with 7 is the chariot, the victor, the warrior. So this is a great time of warriorness that is going to go on, but successful warriorness. Victory is at hand with 777. Now, in the Jewish calendar, it just so happens that the year is 5777. So that has significance. Let's look at some other things of significance that I think you might find interesting. Remember, we're looking at all around the number 7. Okay? These are the results from yesterday. Donald Trump had 304 votes. If we add them up, the numerology, 3 plus 0 plus 4, what do we get? 7. If we look at how many electors were faithless electors, how many do we have? 7. If we look at how many Hillary has, her numbers don't add up to a 7, but there is a 7 within that. And if we look at the difference between 227 and 304, you know what that difference is? 77. So would you say that there's some sort of significance here? Would you say that there is some sort of theme around the number 7? We have 7 faithless electors. We have numerological number of 7 for Trump's votes. We have a difference of 77 between their votes. We're in the year 5777. Now check this one out here. Here's another significant piece. Donald Trump will be 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old on his first full day in office as president. It says God likes to orchestrate events relating to Israel around the number 70. Okay, and it has all this information about that. There's information that I've put up links to of rabbis in Israel believing that Donald Trump is going to be ushering in the Messianic age. To usher in means to announce. To announce like being a trumpet, blowing the trumpet. So there's a lot of significance there. So 7s around Donald, pretty significant, isn't it? Pretty significant when we look at these numbers. So it just shows us, a very important thing. It's also, a lot of people are complaining, saying that this electoral system is an outdated system, and we're supposed to say, well, these states over here have more significance than the rest of the country that voted opposite of them. So we need to, the Electoral College is necessary. It's an important function. It's an important function. Otherwise, if we didn't have the Electoral College system, every 4 years we would simply be following along with what California wanted to do. Why would I say California? Because California has the largest population. In California, Donald Trump had 3 million votes. Hillary had 7 million. Okay, there's a difference of 4 million votes. You add the California totals to the totals from the other 49 states, and that is the only way that Hillary moves into the lead. Because 49 states, not counting California, Trump has a 1.7 million vote lead. Okay, so California has a big say in what goes on because of the population they have. But that saying should not affect the whole country, because I know that people across America do not want to be influenced by California in everything that they do, because there's a lot of other good things in the country that people would like to be able to be part of, and California is not necessarily the model for all of those things. Okay, so there's the elector map here, so check that out. Very interesting, all the 7s around it. The article here kind of ties in with the 777s. Donald Trump will be 777 on the first day of his office. All right, so very interesting. So again, confirmation that there is something going on more than meets the eye. Now, I have said, and I will say it again, that I believe and feel that the energy that is around Donald Trump most associates with Archangel Michael. And I see that the entire system that Trump is standing up against is like a multi-headed beast. So what I see here being played out, just like in the book of Revelation, is a battle between Michael and the beast, and trying to defeat this beast system. And when we look at that, and then we look at all of the surrounding numbers, the 777s, the continual 7s, so on, there seems to be a lot of synchronicity. The other day I had a conversation with some gentlemen from the Church of Latter-day Saints, and I went and I was looking up some stuff on their website afterwards, and I was looking stuff up about Michael the Archangel, and one of the interesting phrases I found was a phrase that says, "Michael, mine angel, shall blow his trump," or trumpet. So there again is a very direct correlation between Trump and Archangel Michael, which I really think that that's the energy that he exemplifies, and I think that's the energy that is around him, which, when all we know about Archangel Michael is he's an angel of victory. He's associated with victory over and over and over again, and this is exactly what we see happening with Trump. Okay, so just something to look at. Something to look at. All right, I want to read this article here I found. It's a really good article. You know, yesterday I was cruising around just looking at the different social networks, reading comments from general people out there, people I don't know, reading comments from people that I do know. And I must say, it's a bit, you know, as a human being, you feel compassion for others, and I feel bad for others to see that they're in so much pain, that some people really think that this is the end of our humanity because of this. They really have been fed a bill of goods that what the liberals and the Democratic agenda was about was the right way to go, and that we are now in the wrong direction. It's really weird to see this, because I ask myself, is that line of thinking, are we going the wrong way? And in order for me to accept what Hillary's about as a candidate, I'd have to be willing to turn a blind eye to all of the crimes that I know that she has been a part of. And I can't do that. I can't turn a blind eye to those crimes, because I know some of these crimes are horrific crimes that would put everybody who else other than her in jail. So I can't side with that. So all I can do is be compassionate and say, I don't understand why so many folks here are siding with criminal behavior, turning a blind eye to it just so their political team can win. And where I see a lot of this problem occurred, and where really a lot of blame should go, is the media. I hope the media gets called to the carpet for all of the lies they told, because they did the number on Donald Trump. They told the lies about him with their hit pieces early on in his campaign, and that stuck. And to this day, people who have never heard a word that Donald Trump has spoken, have never bothered to listen to actually one of his speeches, his rallies or talks, those same people will repeat the same lie that they were told by the mainstream media. That's on the mainstream media. That's for lying and what they did. They deserve to be smacked so hard for that, because you, mainstream media, have betrayed the people. You have lied to them, and you have hurt them through your lies. And there are a lot of people running around in America completely confused because of how you have screwed them up with your lies. You should be ashamed of yourself in the mainstream media. You should be ashamed for the lies you tell to people. You should be ashamed for how you've turned your back not only on Americans, but on your own families. Because one day you may find that the things you've lied about may be knocking at your own door, and then you're going to wonder why it happened. And your family's going to look at you and wonder why you didn't know this was going on. And when they find out that you did know and that you were lying about it, you know, it just makes no sense. You're putting yourself in a very bad situation in America. And I hope that Donald Trump does not allow you mainstream media to be part of his team. I hope he locks you out until you come correct and you apologize to the American people and you tell the American people how you lied to them. If the mainstream can do that, then okay, then we've got a different ball game. But if the mainstream can't do that, then you don't deserve to be out there, because all you're going to do is continue to lie. That's my feeling on the matter. I don't like lying. I think it's disrespectful. I think it's a disservice to humanity, and it's a disservice to America. And when you have people in the media that are lying, and their lies end up hurting Americans and hurting our country, well then There's no excuse for that. Those people should not be involved with media because all they are is a danger to themselves and a danger to their very country. Traitors is what they are. Traitors. Okay, so in that regard, I have this article here that I found, a very good article. I'm going to read through this here. Trump's victory is a pivotal turning point in human history. Donald Trump's victory in November was not only the most important election result of our lifetimes, but ranks as one of the most significant events in recorded history, on par with the French Revolution or the fall of the Berlin Wall, and I'll tell you why. Western society is supersaturated with leftist propaganda. Politically astute non-leftists see it everywhere and complain about it incessantly because it is ubiquitous. In fact, most of our waking hours are spent noticing, commenting upon, getting outraged by, and then futilely combating the endless, relentless leftist slant to everything in modern culture. Every news broadcast, every movie, every lesson in every classroom, every social significator in public, every poll, every TV show, every tribal shibboleth, in large ways and small, overt and covert, subtle and blatant, the society around us is infused with progressive ideals and agendas, whether you realize it or not. And it's not just the entire preschool through PhD educational system. The entire media entertainment complex and most interpersonal environments, increasingly under Obama, especially the federal government itself, has become an inescapable agent of coercive propaganda imposed on us with the full force of the state. But what is the purpose of all of this propaganda? The goal is indoctrination. The culture-wide brainwash we witness with chagrin every day is not designed to ignite a violent overthrow of the American political structure. Long experience has proven that violent revolutions simply don't happen in middle-class, first-world countries. We're too comfortable as a nation for that strategy to ever work. Instead, the ultimate goal of all of this brainwashing and social intimidation is to make the general population vote as the left wants us to vote. Many of the progressives fighting and seemingly winning the culture wars may not even realize the ultimate purpose of their activism. Most naively think that the goal of altering American social mores is merely to alter Americans' social mores and nothing beyond that. What other objective could there be? The answer, of course, is obvious. Political change. Well, it is possible, I suppose, for a thoroughly left-wing society to accept being forever ruled by a conservative government, such as a state of affairs, never endures for long in the real world. Indeed, one of the core values at the heart of the leftism, aside from the touchy-feely cultural stuff, is that the machinery of the state exists for the very purpose of imposing by force progressive ideology on the populace. So the culture wars can never be fully won until leftists have a firm grip on political power. And how do you get political power in America? Well, you don't have a bloody revolution. Violent revolutions can only ever succeed in what were called peasant societies. Tsarist Russia, impoverished rural China, etc., were the large populations of oppressed peasants, but never in industrialized countries, as Marx had incorrectly assumed. Instead, in the United States of America, you gain power incrementally by winning elections. And the way you win elections is by changing the hearts and the minds, and thus the voting patterns of the hoi polloi. The term for this process in Marxist theology is cultural hegemony, a phrase that was coined by communist philosopher Antonio Gramsci to describe how the political power structure of a society is always determined by the cultural norms of that society. A conservative-minded populace will always vote for conservative-minded leaders, so the way to achieve communism in advanced nations, he argued, would be to first change the culture so that progressive ideals become dominant, and then people will simply vote themselves into communism without the need for a revolution. And the way to change the culture, according to this theory, is the slowly infiltrate and serendipitously seize control of the institutions which shape cultural awareness. Most importantly, the mass media and the educational system. This process was strongly advocated by influential leftist philosophers at the Frankfurt School and was eventually given the catchy name The Long March Through the Institutions by 60s radical Rudi Dutschke. So it's no accident, nor did it happen simply naturally that everything in society since the 50s seems to have shifted wildly leftward towards political correctness. It is, in fact, a decades-long strategic plan to change the underlying nature of society to pave the way for an eventual socialist utopia. And while part of that plan is to deny it even exists, in reality, modern academia spends most of the time these days openly discussing and debating how best to implement it. The point beyond Gramscianism and stealth communication, as I call it, is that the revolution in the United States should not be and cannot be a violent revolution, but instead a quiet revolution in which the populace imposes communism on itself willingly, what Bernie Sanders correctly dubs democratic socialism, that is to say, by electing socialist leaders democratically. Which brings us to the main point. The entire purpose of 60 years of slanted media and slanted news and slanted education and social pressure and brainwashing and deception and indoctrination, all of it, everything we complain about every day, all day, for years and years and years. The purpose of all this is to get people to vote for the most left-wing candidate in each presidential election. The goal is to bring about the self-imposed silent revolution in America, a democratically elected socialist government voted in by low-information rubes unaware of what they are doing. And it has looked ever since Obama's ascendancy in 2008 that the long-term strategy had reached a tipping point of success from which there was no return. No conservative could ever win another presidential election. With each passing year, the population was getting younger, more radical, more brainwashed, etc. Midterm, off-year elections are somewhat different story, as regional conservatives' outposts could still elect local representatives, but on national scale they were greatly outnumbered by burgeoning young generations of leftists. The results of these decades of indoctrination was plainly visible in the college students of today, who are all so left-wing by default that they consider standard Marxism too old-fashioned and conservative. Taking into consideration and remembering these adults of today were the radical students of the recent past, it has seemed that these decades of indoctrination has been resoundingly successful, and that the U.S. electorate has swung wildly to the left, never to swing back, just as Gramscian brainwashers had been planning and implementing for the last 50 or more years. And then November 6, 2016 happened, and boom, it was all revealed to be a lie. Not only did the indoctrination fail, but the general impression that the relentless indoctrination has always been successful was itself a giant meta-deception. All this chatter and statistics and talk show experts proclaiming that America had forever swung democratic. All lies. All the slanted polls which were intended to convince everyone that Hillary was inevitable were all lies. The derision of Trump as a ludicrous fringe candidate and supporters as wild-eyed extremists, all lies. And it's not just that they were all lies, they were lies that had no effect. Somehow, without anyone noticing, a majority of the American populace had evolved a new immunity to progressive disinformation. It doesn't matter what Trump's actual political beliefs are or what his policies will be. All that matters is that he was the media's designated enemy, and yet he won. This election didn't merely expose the failure of 6 months of campaigning by the Democratic Party. This election exposed the failure of 6 decades of leftist propaganda to have any cumulative effect at all. And the earthquake extends deep into the future as well. Thanks to Trump's history-shattering victory, we now know that Gramscian model and Frankfurt School model don't work. Every single thing the left has done since the 50s has been catastrophically wrong-headed and misconceived. It has all backfired, which means that going into the future, when they will, as they surely will, continue their failed strategy on autopilot, it will be for naught. Why? Because these techniques only work if the victims don't know they're being propagandized. Yet the public in recent years has become much more sophisticated. Now we do know. And we can never unknow once our eyes have been opened. The left has now to go back to the drawing board and come up with an entirely new playbook. And once they do, it will surely take decades to implement. But the best part is the left doesn't even understand any of this. And they won't reformulate their playbook. They will stick to the same failed script as we have already seen just in the last few weeks since the election. Years from now, and likely even decades from now, the left will still try their stealth and not so stealth propaganda, indoctrination, bullying efforts, and they will continue to fail. That's why Trump's victory is so historically significant. It's a major paradigm shift in the arc of history that completely destroys the leftist long-term game plan, past, present, and future, to such an extent that we are now playing an entirely new game with entirely new rules. But the left refuses to acknowledge this, and they will continue to play the old game, so they will lose and lose and lose and lose over and over and over again until they too see the futility of the entire leftist worldview. So I thought this article was a great article, really kind of summed up, what's going on out there. And it is unfortunate. We have no one to blame but ourselves for this. This is years of liberal education that has dumbed down our society, that has pretty much taken the kids away from their parents. And we have these kids now, they want to run to be communists because they think communal living is the way to go, because they've been misinformed by the media. Again, we go back to the media, just as was talked about in this article, and they've done a great service to humanity through their misinformation. Don't worry. I know that karma has a way of working itself out, so I know that all of those people in the mainstream media that have lied, their day will come when karma will hit them, and then they'll wonder why they're having the problems that they're having. Well, I'm just going to let you know now, it's because of all the lies you've told. They're going to catch up with you, and when they do, well, you brought it upon yourself. Best thing you could do is stop lying out there. Chance of that happening, probably slim to none, but we'll have some hope. We'll have some hope. All right, during the election process yesterday, we kept hearing, or leading up to this electoral process, we kept hearing how all of these electors were going to defect from Trump. All these faithless electors. Guess what? Again, it was a lie by the mainstream. Remember where they keep saying Donald Trump, or Hillary is 98-point-some% chance of being the victor. Donald only has a 1% chance of being the president. They were wrong. They lied. And they lied throughout the election with all their fake polls. And they continued to lie, and they continue to lie. And they don't realize how their lies are hurting them. I wonder how many people on the Democratic side did go out to vote because the Democratic liberal agenda was to put out the message, we've already won. I wonder how many. So in that case, guess what? Mainstream news screwed it up for the Democrats. So in some ways, your karma's come back at you. So we had these faithless electors, and my thought on a faithless elector is that they themselves are certainly doing what they feel within their conscience, but I think that's a reflection upon the state itself. You see, the state is the one who runs these elections and put these elections together. And there's a popular vote that happens in each state which sends the electors to vote further like they did the other day. Well, in these states, I would guess that the objective is to be able to run a tight ship. But when you have faithless electors in your state, I would have to say that that would be an embarrassment for the party of that state that is in charge. So up in Washington State, where there were 4 electors that were supposed to vote for Hillary that didn't, whereas because I'm not a Hillary fan, it doesn't really bother me, but as somebody who wants to look at the system of fairness, I think that that's something that the Democratic Party quite failed at, because they didn't do their due diligence and they allowed 4 people to get by who weren't going to vote their way. People who had pledged that they were going to vote their way. So that's the fault of the party. In the same sense, down in Texas, there were 2 that went rogue there. Same thing for the state of Texas. 36 went the right way, but state of Texas failed in the fact that they allowed 2 to get in the ranks there that were faithless. 2 that made a pledge and weren't going to go along with that pledge. 2 individuals who think that they know better of what the country needs than the rest of the millions that actually voted for them. So I think that it's a very interesting process, but I think we need to really look at the fairness of the process, and we need to understand If a person is going to go in and sign a pledge and say they're going to do something, they should follow through and do that. And if they end up not doing that, well, I don't think that person should ever be considered for that position again. Just like these electors that went faithless, they should never ever be invited to be elector again. And in some cases, because of the way in which they were so cocky in their attitudes towards the public, some of them are going to get a lot more backlash. This guy in Texas, wouldn't want to be him, because the backlash and the dirt that's coming out about this guy, it's going to live long past this whole process, and he's going to have to be the one to walk through the streets and be recognized by people as being a traitor, a Benedict Arnold. But he brought it on himself because of the way in which he did it. So, anyway, let me move on from there. One of these electors in Washington State chose a candidate. They voted for a faith-spotted eagle. And I thought this was a very interesting choice, as many are thinking, and I just wanted to bring this to you so you could know who this was. The Yankton Sioux tribe members have been a prolific opponent of the Keystone Pipeline. Okay, faith-spotted eagle was the choice of one Washington state elector on Monday to the next president of the United States. 8 of our state's 12 Democratic electors voted for Hillary Clinton in accordance with the popular vote, but 4 others did not. 3 voted for former Secretary of State Colin Powell, and 1 for faith-spotted eagle, a Native American elder from South Dakota. But who is she? Faith-spotted eagle has been a vocal opponent of major oil pipeline projects in North America, including the Keystone XL pipeline and the Dakota Access pipeline. Speaking to CNN earlier this year at the Standing Rock Sioux camp near the intended Dakota Access pipeline path, the elders said the fight over the Dakota land would be a battle that's not going to stop. I think it's a rebirth of a nation. I think that all of these young people here have a dream that one day they would live in a camp like this, because they heard old people telling them stories of living along the river. She said they're living the dream. Running a pipeline through Native American sacred land is no different than what we're here to build through Arlington National Cemetery. You don't disturb people that have been put to rest. Okay, so very interesting. I myself personally am a big fan of the Native American philosophy, and I think that we would be a much different society if we allowed spiritual leaders like Native American leaders to be able to have more positions of authority. I think it would be a different sense we would bring to our land and our country when you add that spiritual element in. If we look through the past, so many times in societies, it was the shamans who were very prominent in society, and the society understood the necessity of following the spiritual guidance that was coming their ways. All right, one more story here, 2 more quick stories here. First one, just to show that we're in time of things happening that are unique. Well, here's a article about snow in the Sahara Desert. First time in 37 years. Okay, so what we have here are some pictures. Amateur photographer Karim Bochetta took the incredible pictures of snow covering the sand in the small Saharan town of Ain Serif, Algeria, yesterday afternoon. He captured the amazing moment. Snow fell on the red sand dunes in the world's largest hot desert for the first time in 37 years. Pretty remarkable, huh? Okay, so we do have events which are occurring, like snow, like people being elected, like leaders across the country changing. Look what happened with Brexit. Very big situation. There's going to be others like that throughout the country as well. We're going to continue to see these very important changes because we are in a time of change. And in America, if you're alive, if you're older than 21, if you've actually seen a bit more of the greatness of what America is over all these years, then you understand that there's been a great oppression upon the American people that goes back a long, long, long time. And the fact that this president, who is an independent, not one of those insiders, got in, Americans should be cheering, should be cheering because we've broken past a barrier of oppression that has been upon us for so long. So it's quite confusing to see people out there cheering to go back to the Depression, to go back to these states where they are being regulated by others. It's very bizarre. The idea is supposed to be freedom, and opportunity is here. So that's what I believe is going on, this great change that is taking place. So we're all part of it. And with this change, with this idea, we keep hearing, and I've heard this phrase, make America great again. Well, the whole idea is let's just kind of think of ourselves as being successful, and let's put ourselves back on the track of success. That's really what it's all about. Because America hasn't been a successful country over the years. We haven't been successful in the ways that we've been in the past. So we need to get on that track. And part of success is learning how individually to create abundance for our lives, for our future. This is an article at In5D. It's how to create your abundant future. This has come up by Zoe. It's by Zoe Davenport. This has come up quite a few times over the past couple of weeks with my clients on how stepping into the void unknown paves the way for us to get back to that yummy space where creativity, imagination, and play can start to come to us in creative, positive thoughts and manifesting our reality in a more heart-focused way. In order to create this space, we must first be comfortable with not knowing what the final outcome will be. We must first look at what we are holding on to so tightly and ask, is this serving us? Then we'll trust to let go and allow space and allow the universe to show up for us in a positive way, more aligned with our heart's true calling. This analogy has helped me to focus on where my attentions are on more than one occasion. I'm currently in between timelines, so in this space, the void, as I let go of the last shreds of doubt and fear, more comes into my path that feels so aligned and true to who I am. I hope you all find some value along your path to creating your abundant future. Now, I love you, Zoe Davenport. Okay, and here's a video. It's like a 7-minute video, 10-minute video. Good video where she gives some nice guidance and instructions about the process of letting go. She gives some great examples in there. So check out that video. The link's available, firstcontactradio.com. And finally, we have arrived at our meditation for today. So what I'd like you to do, as we do each and every day at this time, is go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And exhale. Take another deep breath. And exhale again. And another breath. And exhale. Now let's imagine looking at the world. And we're looking at the world that was. And we can see clearly the path that we were moving upon individually and as a society. And as we see the path that was before us, we could see that the path was leading us into dangerous territory. And so we gathered ourselves together and we made a change. And we could see, as we continued to look at that past image of the earth and the direction, we could see the choice that we made. We could see a new path set before us. We could see that we have stepped away from the chains that have bound us. We have stepped away from the corruption that has tried to pull us down. And we have endured the lies of those who claim to be our friends helping us. And throughout all of this, we've overcome and have changed our path. So now we find ourselves walking upon a new path. A path with an opportunity on it to create abundance. Individually in our lives and collectively. As a country and as a world. And as we see the path and the choices before us, we understand that we can move past the choices we've made in the past and make new choices because we are on a new journey. with new opportunities. So let's just imagine ourselves walking along this path. Let's imagine letting go of all of the chains that have held us back. Let's imagine of letting go of those attachments to the way we think things are supposed to be because of what we've been told. Let's think about how things are by the way divinity has set them up to be. And as we contemplate this path and contemplate the new direction and a new way of moving through this world, we realize the gift we've been given, an opportunity to really change for the better. So let's just imagine sending positivity into the world, light and love, to assist us on this change. Let's send some love and some blessings to all of those that are out there that are in pain through this process of change, that are having a hard time accepting it. Let us send them love and light that they may find ease in letting go of all of their attachments, of all of the things that hold them back. For we know that once they let go, that they too shall be free. So let's just keep sending out love and positivity and compassion for those around us and their challenges of the day. Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother, thank you for blessing our lives this day. Thank you for the light of the Christ that shines brightly in each of our lives. And thank you for the opportunities we have to clear out any debris that blocks this light from shining bright. We pray this day that people in pain may find comfort. People who are lost find their way. People who are confused become clear-minded. People who feel unloved are loved. And let's just keep sending out these positive energies, and we thank you, God. We thank you for all of these wonderful blessings. So let's see the subconscious mind continue on the journey, sending out love, sending out positivity, just making that our mantra for the day, love and positivity. And let's bring the conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3 coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2 coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1 coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale. And open your eyes. All right, my friends, that is it for today. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, we're on a new path. We have new opportunities before us. Let's just keep sending out the positivity to all of those who are still going through the challenges of this transition. We know that good things have happened, but we also know that there's a lot of people who have been conditioned over the years to think certain ways about these transition that we've gone through. And so some of them are still in pain, friends, family members. We just need to be patient and have compassion. I know and I believe that all will be well. 6 months down the road, people will have a different feeling about this experience and understand that we are moving in the right direction. I truly believe that is the case. I truly believe that Donald Trump and Mike Pence are here on a divine purpose, on a divine mission, and I believe that this is an opportunity for us to truly change things around for the better in many, many ways in our lives individually and collectively as a country and as a world. So that's it for today. I will be back with more news and information. Until then, I love you. Keep loving each other, and I will talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.